Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name's Liz, and if you're new here, I love everything crafting and DIYing, whether that be Dollar Tree DIYs or scrapwood DIYs. I love it all. And in today's video, I have 4 super cute Valentine's DIYs for you. So let's go ahead and jump on in. So for this DIY, you're gonna pick up one of these framed signs from the Dollar Tree. I love this because you can actually remove the frame. I'm gonna start by removing that jute hanger, and then I'm also going to remove those staples that were holding that jute in place. I did just use a flathead screwdriver to get those removed. Then I started by removing that frame from the sign, and I used a flathead screwdriver to help me out. Now there were little tiny, almost like little staples throughout those pieces, so I did have to take some pliers and get those removed. So here's what the sign looks like with the frame off of it. I did take this to my garage and give it a good sanding to get all that glitter off of there. You can definitely just use a piece of sanding paper if you have one, but I found it much easier and much quicker to use my electric sander. I'm going to take some white Waverly chalk paint, and I'm going to give my sign a good 2 coats of this paint. And then I always make sure to use my heat gun in between coats to speed up that drying process. So once that is all good and dry, I'm going to take my Waverly chalk paint in mineral, and I'm just going to add some little distressing lines. I just used a paintbrush that had a very flat top to it, and I just went through and just drew little tiny lines all over the sign. After I got those painted on there, I took a baby wipe, and just to soften those lines up a little bit, I'm just going to slightly go over them, kind of wiping off the paint and then smearing it around. Now I loved the natural wood look that this frame had, so I left those alone, and I'm just going to go through and hot glue those pieces back down to my sign. Once I've got all that assembled, I'm going to take this decal that I cut out using my Cricut. I'll have a free printable link down in the description box below, and then I'll also have a link to the Cricut file if you have Cricut so that you can cut this out as well. I'm going to use my Expressions vinyl transfer tape to apply this to my sign. I do get a lot of questions about my transfer tape. It is from Expressions vinyl, like I said, and I also do get my vinyl from there as well. And then one trick that I always like to do so that I can easily move my design around is just applying some wax paper to the back of my decal, letting a little bit of that decal hang off so that there's just a sliver of stickiness to the back. And then I'm able to just move that around, get it exactly where I want it without the decal sticking to the sign and then having to pull it up, and it just creates a whole big mess. So this is definitely a game changer when applying my decals. And then once I've got it where I want, I just press firmly on the spot where there is no wax paper, and then I just remove that wax paper and then lay my decal back down onto the sign, burnish it with my little scraper tool, and remove that transferred paper from the sign. And that's it for this super easy Valentine sign. It's absolutely adorable. I love how simple it is.
You're gone now. Will you call me back? Yeah, I know that. Yeah, I know that. You're the traveling kind. It's a known fact. Yeah, I know that. Once you've seen all the things, all the places, I hope it.
For this project, I picked up these flowers from Hobby Lobby. They were on a 50% off sale, so I did get the bundle for $5. I feel like for the quality and for the amount of flowers that you're getting on here, it's absolutely worth it when comparing it to Dollar Tree florals. And then I also picked up this heart grapevine wreath from Hobby Lobby. It was also 40% off. I'm just going to start by cutting all the flowers off of the stem, and then I am going to remove the leaves from the bottom of all of those flowers. I'm going to start by taking my flowers and sticking them right into that wreath. The thing I like about grapevine wreaths the best is that you don't necessarily need a whole bunch of hot glue to assemble your wreath. You can just stick the stems down into the wreath and it stays pretty well on its own, and then you can always secure it with some floral wire, which I also do so that I can get the flowers exactly in the place that I want them so that they're not poking out everywhere. And I just attach my flowers all going in the exact same direction. And then once I have all of my flowers on there, I'm going to take those leaves that I removed from the bottom of all the stems, and I'm just going to start placing those into my grapevine wreath wherever I feel like there's a bare or empty spot. So this is going to really fill up my wreath and make it look full and beautiful. I also use my pliers to kind of pull the bottom of those leaves through the grapevine wreath so that they are secure and in there, and then any that are a little bit loose, I do go in with some floral wire and attach it to those just so that they're even more secure. Then allows me to manipulate those flowers and get everything into the position that I want. I just prefer this method so that I'm not using a ton of hot glue, and then I can remove the flowers and reuse that wreath if I'd like. It's just way less messy in my opinion.
That you'll come home to me once you travel the world, all the spaces inside your heart. I hope I'll be your end destination. I hope I'll be your life-changing sensation.
For this DIY, I grabbed this gold sparkly piggy bank from the Dollar Tree. I thought the frame on here was absolutely gorgeous. I'm going to start by disassembling this little piggy bank. I took out the back, removed that paper, and then to get the wording off of the glass, I tried going in with my 100% acetone nail polish remover. That works typically for me in the past, but for this one, for whatever reason, it just was not wanting to come off. So I did end up using a razor blade to get those words off of the glass. I'm going to take the backing of that piggy bank, I'm going to trace it over a piece of scrapbook paper. This scrapbook paper came from a pack from years ago from some scrapbooking warehouse. So I've had it for a really long time and I wanted to get some use out of it. So I'm going to cut that out, and then I'm going to use a glue stick to attach my scrapbook paper to the back of the sign. Now I'm going to grab some florals. I just grabbed several from the Dollar Tree, from Walmart, and then I believe the pink flowers are from Michael's, I want to say. I just started playing around with which flowers and greenery that I wanted. Once I had those decided, I started messing around with the placement of the flowers on my sign. I always do this to make sure that I'm getting it exactly the way I want it before I start gluing everything down. So once I have an idea of how I want it to look, I'm going to start attaching everything together. So these pink flowers were a little bit too widespread for me and I wanted to tie them together, so I just took some twine and tied them tightly together so that they weren't so spread out. And this winded up being perfect so that it would look like a little bouquet. So I'm going to start by hot gluing those pink flowers down right in the middle. And these red flowers are from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to start hot gluing them all around the pink flowers. I thought this turned out so cute, and the fact that it looks like a little bouquet in the shadow box at the end is absolutely adorable in my opinion. So I was super happy with the way this turned out. I'm going to take those leaves that came with the pink flowers. I just added some hot glue to the middle and then push those up around the stem of the pink flowers. And then I'm going to take a piece of twine and just tie a little cute dainty bow with it. Just using a shoelace tie method, making two little bunny ears and tying them together. I'm going to add some hot glue to the bottom of those leaves, and then I'm going to stick my bow right on top, cut off the excess twine, insert my backing back into the shadow box, and that is it for this adorable bouquet shadow box.
I hope I'll be something that you won't let go. I'll be your high when you fall down low. I hope I'll be your end destination.
For this DIY, DIY, you're going to grab one of these palette hearts that you can get from the Dollar Tree. They do have a couple different styles where the wood's going vertically. I got mine in the one that's going horizontally. That's just what I preferred. I'm going to remove the jute hanger, and then I'm going to take my Waverly chalk paint and ballet slippers. I'm going to paint the second row of that palette in this color. I did just do one very light coat. I didn't get all the edges perfectly. I wanted some of that natural wood to peek through. And then to add some distressing, I'm going to take my Craft Smart stain in the color gray, and I am just going to hit all the edges of that second row and then drag it into the middle. So I wanted to heavily distress the outside, and then whatever was left on my brush, I just dragged it through that entire second row. I repeated this step using my Waverly chalk paint in white. And then I went through and painted all those little pieces that you could see in between each row in my ballet slipper color. I took a large chip brush and dipped it back into that stain that I used previously and went back over that second row. I wanted it to be a little bit more distressed. Now I'm going to take some scrapbook paper. I'm going to trace out the top of the heart and I'm going to cut that out. This scrapbook paper did come from Hobby Lobby, just in their single scrapbook paper sets. I'm going to use my glue stick to attach that scrapbook paper to the top of my heart. And then for the bottom of the heart, I'm going to take this other scrapbook paper that I have, and I believe I got this in a pack from Joann's. And again, I'm just going to use my glue stick to attach this paper down. I thought this was so pretty with the gold foiled hearts on there. It matched perfectly with my shadow box sign. So if you have any paper hanging off of any of the edges, I just like taking a piece of sandpaper and running across that paper to get all the excess off. It makes a really nice and clean, smooth line. So this is what I do whenever I'm using some scrapbook paper on something. Any of those extra hanging bits, I just go over with a bit of sandpaper. And then I also feel like it gives it that extra distressed look to it. So my pink slat was looking a little bit too distressed for my taste and a little bit too dark, so I just went back over it with a little bit more of that pink. I'm going to take this sign that I also got from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to remove all three of those galvanized hearts. I'm just going to take a flathead screwdriver and just pop them right off. Now I'm going to use some hot glue, and I'm going to hot glue those galvanized hearts to my pink slat. I just did the middle one first so I could make sure that was nice and centered, and then I hot glued my other ones to the sides. And that's it for this super adorable palette heart.
You're far away, and yet so close. Yeah, I feel that. Yeah, I feel that. Yeah, you're up in space. You're inside the noise. I can feel you. Once you've seen all the things, all the places, I hope it means that you'll come home to me. Once you've traveled the world, all the spaces inside your heart. I hope I'll be your destination. I hope I'll be your life-changing sensation. I hope I'll be something that you won't let go. I'll be your high when you fall down low. I hope I'll be your destination. You're gone now, but you're coming back. Yeah, I know that. Yeah, I know that. You're the traveling kind. It's a known fact.
that's it for today's video. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. Let me know which project was your favorite. Don't forget to subscribe before you guys leave. Give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!